Hey. So there was no ghost. Welcome to part 2 of DM Talks. Let's go.
Sorry, I thought I heard a sound. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm home alone. So I was like, but yeah, no, I find it all a bit mad, really.
Yeah.
Ooh, actually, I remember another thing that I wanted to sort of bring up. Like, so I think I even said this to you on the phone, but like I said, with microaggressions causing doubt and confusion and making you want to gaslight yourself, you may turn to therapy, you may turn to, proactively working at your mental health. That's what I chose to do anyway. And maybe in my younger years of like approaching therapy for when I was like 16, 17, whatever, I'd always come across unhelpful thinking habits. I think if you do CBT or if you do a form of like cognitive work, you'll become familiar with unhelpful thinking habits, whether that's predicting, catastrophizing, all of these things. Under this section, it's thinking black and white, right? And it says if you think black and white, this isn't productive because it's like sort of dismissive. It doesn't take the whole picture. But how can you tell me that when I'm a black person in a white world, in a white environment, in a white diagnostic system?
Yeah.
You know, like you can't tell me that. You can't say, oh, racism doesn't exist or I don't see color. When I literally am color, I am evidence of it. And if it's not evidence in my own voice, it's evidence in your voice, it's evidence in other people's voices. And then we kind of find strength because now we have a collective voice because we realize that we're not the only people going through it.
Yeah. And there's something of like that black and white thinking, of actually sometimes the therapist is doing their own black and white thinking because they're thinking, no, what I believe is right. My experience of the world is right. And so whatever this client is saying about racism, there's doubt in that. Did that really happen? Are you sure that happened? Like there's just this thing of like, my reality is right and your reality is wrong. And it's about finding the right therapist, because if that's happening, you're receiving microaggressions in therapy, you're being gaslighted in therapy. And so it just perpetuates the whole system all over again.
Do you know what I mean? And that's so disheartening because how am I gone out to seek help? Yeah, I'm getting microaggressions in my appointment. Like I remember when I was in vulnerable situations and I would go, to be fair, my experiences, maybe not necessarily in therapy, but like even if I was going to the doctor and I was talking about my mental health and then I would get microaggressions whilst I'm talking about my mental health. And it's just like, what do I do now? Like I said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I described it in my dissertation as a double bound dilemma because I am depleted. I am depleted because if I confront this situation, I might dismiss and that might further invalidate my feelings and further cause me harm. But then if I choose to let it go, I'm really just waiting for it to happen again, you know? Like it's kind of weird because obviously I think there's this whole thing of picking your battles. Like if I responded to every microaggression I received, I would be mad, you know? So I think when it comes to sort of, I don't know, confronting them, we have to be very calculated. And even that in itself is draining.
Yeah. And it happens so much in the workplace. And I remember watching like, what was it on Netflix? She Did That, or I think it was She Did That.
Yeah.
It's about women and starting their small businesses and the success of that. And it basically said that, and it was American based, but it said that Black women are how do I word this? The most popular group, or the most, have had the biggest growth in terms of starting small businesses. Like they're the group that are more likely to start small businesses. And that comes from the fact that when they weren't doing a small business and they were being employed, they experienced racism or microaggressions and were having to navigate through a very white-centered world, which didn't cater for their needs. And so there's this thing of like you said, experiencing microaggressions, especially at work, happens so much to women at work. And other groups as well, but I'm thinking specifically here about Black women.
Yeah.
It happens so much. And how do you challenge a microaggression at work? How do you do that? Because you're employed, you need money to pay your rent.
Exactly.
You need money to pay for this.
Exactly.
So if you take it too far, you're worried that your job is at risk and that you're at risk. So there's 100%. A complete lack of safety. It's crazy.
It's so mad. Like, I think, because, like I said to you, like I grew up with basically having like a racial radar, like that I could see like when I came to university, me trying to realize that racism exists, but racism isn't the only thing that influences me. But then I went to uni, so realizing that I can probably see it just a bit clearer, a bit more than my peers. But it's this whole thing of like, because I was raised in a conditional environment, I wanted to also use that to my advantage. So every module, I shit you not, when I was choosing for my university, I was like, how's this going to look as a Black woman? Best believe I did organizational psychology. Best believe, because I was waiting for that day, right, when Karen or Susan or Becky comes to me in work. Oh, honey, I'm HR. I'm literally HR. Come at me, bro. Come at me, bro. Because the thing is, if more Black women were in HR, in positions of HR, maybe we can stop this level of discrimination. Because, like, who are you reporting to this, honey? Me.
Yeah. Where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna go?
Literally, honestly, throughout that whole module, I just thought of myself of like, let's say like a white woman trying to come in and be like, oh, she's cooking her jollof again, or some bullshit like that. And then you just see with a white cat like, and?
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
There's also like some microaggressions that are so hard to report, because if you put it on paper, it doesn't look like it's anything to report. Like, I'm thinking back to like previous works, and not in my therapy work, but previous works that I've been at, where I've had managers that maybe kind of treat me like I'm a project.
Yeah.
Or like, or like, you know, I've helped grow this person so much, and stuff like, I'm not your charity case. Like, I did that work. Thank you for your support, but I did that. Thank you. the recognition comes to me, not to you. Like, there is this thing of like, oh, you know, cool young Black girl. Let's kind of like mold her into who we need her to be. And it's just long. It's so long. Patronizing.
I feel like you've literally jumped into my head and spoken for me. Honestly, because like with me, so don't get me wrong, I've changed in person, I've obviously grown more mature and stuff, but like me as my mannerisms and as my character, I actually haven't changed that much since I was younger. I've always been extremely energetic. I've always been very forward with my feelings and quite loud as a person. So when I went to boarding school, so many white teachers, so many of those people, you saw me as a project and saw me like they could mold me and be like, so let's say if I did something good, oh my God, you're amazing. You defeated the odds. Like, I'm just so happy. This one fucking teacher, I remember, she was like, I think I did well in a essay. I went to that school, I was very, very quiet, but then I was starting to take advantage of the fact that I was at that school and I was doing quite well. And I remember being taken in for a meeting and then being like, oh, you've really come far since you've been here. You've really outgrown your attitude. You've really done this, you've done that. Like, and I just look at them, I'm like, you're actually mad? Like, what did you expect? Like, you're pushing this narrative of me of Blackness because you don't know Black people. Bearing in mind, I came from fucking Windsor. Like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It doesn't. Do you understand how you try to make sense what doesn't make sense? Like, what the hell? Like, teachers always used to teach me as a project, and then because I had that microaggression of teachers seeing me as a project, I'm very, very sensitive to when peers or external forces try and mold me into a project. I am who I am. I say what I say, and if that doesn't align with you, you don't have to listen to it. You really, really don't. You shouldn't have to push that emotional responsibility onto me just to comfort you.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing. I think it's about the other person's anxiety, so that person is feeling anxious about me, and so they try to control that anxiety and have power over that anxiety by trying to have power over me. They try to fit me into a box. Okay, you talk quite well for a black person. Okay, like, you're safe. To me, that makes me feel safe. That's not my business. If you feel safe, that's your problem. Like, I haven't done anything to make you not feel safe. But by you saying that, you're not making me feel safe, and now we've got a problem. 100%. So it's kind of like it's about the perceiver. It's not about me. It's about them, and then wanting to kind of find a way. Exactly. Like, you're responsible for your feelings. I was responsible for mine, but don't trigger mine either. Like, it's boundaries.
Completely. Like, you just reminded me of this sort of microaggression, which you could consider a little microaggression if in comparison. However, I thought it's funny how you say that, because I remember I was on the bus, right? I was on the bus with with this girl that I used to go to uni with. Bearing in mind, I hadn't really known her that long. Do you know what I mean? It was like first year, whatever. And I was going to my lecture. I was hungover. I was tired. I was hungry. Like, I just, you know when you just feel grumpy, you just feel so like irritable and stuff. And like, I was just like, oh, I'm just not ready for today. Like, I was just like, moaning as people do. And you should have seen the look on her face. She's like. And I was just looking at her like, are you okay? She's like, you're just so like intimidating. And I was just like, well, no, you're intimidated. And I mean, if you're intimidated over me talking about how hungry I'm, tired I am before a lecture, I wish you well for the world, because you're going to have many things to be intimidated of, my friend.
And that's interesting, because when you describe like how tired you are, how hungry you are, I hear vulnerability. I hear that you were feeling vulnerable, but what she saw was intimidation
through her white eyes.
And why are we not allowed to be seen as vulnerable? Why is that a problem?
Yeah.
Why is that to be feared?
Do you know what I mean? Because the thing is, like, it's really sad, actually, because it's like, we don't have the opportunity to be vulnerable. we're not even recognized as vulnerable. But even the times when we want to show our vulnerability, it will probably be dismissed. Because like, yeah. I know I don't want to come with like, I don't want to put my bluntness everywhere. But like, because like, I know I've really struggled asking people for help or asking people for support, because I didn't know if they would support me. I didn't know if they were just there being present or if they were genuine, because I was so conditioned to believe of conditional relationships, exchanges, like, and I know that was influenced because of I know that was influenced because of where I was brought up, and I know that was influenced because of how dark I am, influencing my own experiences. Because we can talk about microaggressions, and yes, I was experiencing a lot of them, but then also I was watching my mixed race friends getting discriminated against, and then watching the same people then discriminate against me. So I was able to really see like the preference. I would only say the preference, because that wasn't the case all the time. If someone's getting discriminated, they're getting discriminated. But like, let's say if we're looking at microaggressions in dating, or microaggressions in like courting or relationships, whatever, seeing the fact of mixed race people being preferred to me was a microaggression in itself, because it was like, oh, I'm not as good as them, However, also, if they're getting discriminated against, and let's say it's not racialized, they're just getting, like indirect, rude discrimination, it's like, how can I how can I convert these? How can I, if they don't choose to confront it, nor should I.
Yeah.
Because that's not my business, you know, because like, it's like, because I was putting everything on my shoulders, as we're conditioned to do as fucking black women in this whitewashed society, like I'd get really, really hurt and absorb the emotions of the people around me, because I was like, this isn't okay, this isn't right. But they're trying to live too.
Yeah.
You know, like it was weird, because even in that sense, it's a microaggression in itself, because now I'm putting on my experiences, my expectations, my beliefs onto this person because of what I've seen in front of me. Don't get me wrong, there's levels to it. Like if someone was dismissing something that I'm feeling very passionate about, which sort of it obstructs my integrity, then it's sort of indication for me to like step back, because then we have different kind of views. But if I don't like the way someone's been treated in a indirect discrimination way or microaggressive way, but they don't care, then I shouldn't care.
Yeah.
Because now I'm putting anxiety, self-reflection, all that rumination, all that suppression now on them.
Yeah. But then I guess it's quite hard as well, because often when we experience microaggressions, in that moment, we often freeze.
Yeah.
Or we don't know what to say, or we go into like full response, which is just like, oh, ha, 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 let's just pretend like it happened.
Yeah.
And then we leave that situation feeling like, oh, I wish I'd said something now. Oh, how could I, why did I say something? Oh, da, 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 da. And then so when we see someone else have that same experience, we're more able to kind of come forward, because we're not being triggered, but we are seeing it from the outside. And so we're more able to step forward. And we're not just stepping forward for that person, we're stepping forward for ourselves, for those other times when we could step forward for ourselves.
You're so right.
It's like this kind of justice, like, oh no, like now I'm gonna go, like I couldn't go in that time, but I'm gonna go in for this person now.
That's
and
true.
We actually for ourselves. We need that person to step in for us as well.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Sometimes, like I know throughout life, or throughout, let's say, like our teenage years, we find it easier to stand up for others than ourselves as well. Yeah. So you can see that sort of how microaggressions are now recycled again, you know, like how it just adapts to the environment. And is it going to appear? Is it going to not? Is it going to, oh God.
Yeah.
Wow, like this, I'm sorry, I'm just taking a bit back because this conversation is going so well and I'm learning so much.
We might be here for a few hours, I think.
I've actually got some questions. Oh wait, sorry, go on.
I was going to say as well, like, because there's something you mentioned, I think it was about vulnerability. And in your dissertation, I think your first line is a quote or a reference from Aisha Mackenzie Bavinga, who I'm a big fangirl of. She's incredible. I've seen her in her talks and she's just like,
oh, amazing.
I just want her to be my mom or something. But she's amazing. she's so cool. And she, in one of her books, I've got it here, Black Issues in the Therapeutic Process, she writes about the training experience when you're trained to be a therapist, and when you're Black and you're trained to be a therapist, and when hopefully every therapy training program should have a module where they talk about difference, diversity, race. They normally pack it into an evening or a day.
Literally.
Unfortunately, that needs to change, but you know, whatever. And she talks about the experience of having to sit in on this workshop, which is talking about race and officially like otherness, Blackness, as a Black person being surrounded by other white trainees, and how uncomfortable that experience is. And she does like a few studies, I think, or like interviews with people of colour trainees, and a lot of them will say how there'll be a moment where they might bring something vulnerable about their experience as a person of colour. And then what will happen is, or maybe a white person in the group might say something, and then that person of colour is triggered, and they'll name, that triggered me. But then what happens is the rest of the group start to rescue that white person. They don't stay with the vulnerability of the person of colour. They rescue the white person. Oh no, how could you say that to them? They didn't mean it. And it starts to be about that white person's vulnerability is more important than that black person or person of colour's vulnerability. Why can't you see me vulnerable? Why can't you see my tears or my pain? I've had to carry it for so long, and this is the one moment I'm allowed. I've given myself permission to take the risk to share it with you, and you can't even acknowledge and see it. You have to go over there, and I think that is just so telling of what happens in our society every single day.
Everything that you said was just completely right. Like everything, like it angers me and frustrates me how even within myself, like I really, really struggle showing people vulnerability. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm very forward and I'm very like, I'm very forward, but I'm also very diplomatic. So I'm able to tell you about things without telling you about things, you know? And I think with vulnerability as well, like if I let you in, I let you wholeheartedly in. So for me to now come out of that vulnerability, state a microaggression, but no, because I'm stating it, I'm losing every form of support because it's not being gifted to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that idea of permission, because it is permission. Like the fact that I'm even just thinking about experiences now where I've gone and told white people, white friends, that they've triggered me, they've made me feel uncomfortable. And instead of realizing that Sarah, their friend, who's had all of these experiences, who knows what she's fucking talking about, having a conversation with you, it's like, oh my god, you called me racist, and it's like, no, like it's frustrating. It frustrates me how like we were talking about microaggressions, you talk about race and people think that you're saying that they're in the KKK. Like that's like, it's not like 1 and 1 equals mad. Like I'm not saying that. I'm saying listen. Because if you actually took the time out to listen to what I was saying, you'd just be like, oh, my bad. I'm so sorry. Can we work through this? Because even now, like, I look at instances where I've got microaggressions and I think I'm able to leave them there because I'm comfortable with apology that I never received. But that's something that you learn throughout life, you know, and it's not until that's satisfied in self. It's I don't have to explain, but you know what I mean. Like I can't teach you that. I can't, even everybody listening on the podcast, I can't teach anyone that. They have to learn it from themselves. They have to learn with the apology that they never received, because they're going to learn that throughout their life at some point.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's also reminding me of like I think it was around the time of George Floyd. I did a post on my IG just about like resources, about thinking about race, and specifically thinking about race and race issues in the UK. So it's like books, articles, stuff like that. You know, I was doing the work. I put myself out there. I gifted the universe.
Yeah.
But I had a racist comment as a result, or what you'd say a micro assault. Is that the top one?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, micro assaults.
So I can't remember what it was, but it was pretty dreadful. It's basically kind of like, if you don't like this country, why don't you go back home kind of situation, or go to Africa situation. No, it was go back to Wakanda. That's creative.
Do you know what's so weird? I literally like, it just shows you how dumb they are. Do you know what I mean? It shows you how dumb they are. Because the thing is, so I've been waitressing for years and years. So when I get the microaggression of, oh, where are you from? Where are you actually from? I say Wakanda. I literally say that to them, and I like saying it to them right in front of their faces, because I like to see that like people's brains be like, wait, what? Isn't that Black Panther? So like, yeah, that's pretty racist. Like, I'm sorry that you had to experience that, man.
I would love if someone said to you, oh yeah, I went there last year or something like that. That'd be really jokes.
Do you know what I mean? Oh, there was this one customer that I had that genuinely thought, well, like I'm not gonna lie, I did push the boat out. Like I literally was like, they're like, what do you mean? It's Black Panther, isn't it? And I was like, oh no, that's just where it was, like that's just an animated version for the film, like, but it's a beautiful place you should visit, near Tanzania.
I'm so gonna do that next time.
No, honestly, because that's the thing, like, you know what, I'll bring this in like really, really quickly, but like, so if you're a waitress, if you work in hospitality, it doesn't matter like what race you are, you're gonna get microaggressions. You're gonna experience customers, guests, whatever, inferring shit when they want something else. Like, and that is just hospitality for you. And seeing the microaggressions that I would received compared to some of my colleagues was just crazy. So yes, I'm working in Windsor and it is racist, but I'm also westernized. So to them, how do I explain it? Okay, so I'm westernized in comparison to my colleagues who are from Eastern European descent. So the discrimination, well, the microaggressions that I perceived between me and my Eastern European colleagues was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It was like, to me, it was like, oh, this good black. Oh, look at, like, what is she doing? But to my Eastern European colleagues, it was vulgar. It was dismissive. It was insulting. It was like that whole thing of, you know, the top racism, the micro assaults. It was that more so with them. And then with me, it was micro invalidations or micro insults, you know? It's like, wait, what? Like, in that sense of microaggressions, if you see it as continuum, it suggests that the micro insults, micro invalidations are more in your subconscious and your unconscious level. So the fact that those microaggressions were coming towards a black woman, a dark-skinned black woman, suggests that the westernized, like westernized influenced. Sorry, that is such a mouthful. Wow. So the Western influenced my discrimination.
Yeah.
But I was also in an environment with Eastern European colleagues, and I've been waitressing for ages, but you could see the microaggressions just exacerbate, like increase so much during the time where there was more governmental policy on like migration laws, and they were being stricter and tougher, and you literally see how like the government could be doing their shit, but then it influences all the people on the ground, and that's going to influence the amount of microaggressions or even hate crime that an individual receives.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
It's so frustrating, like, and even like going back to that comment that I received on the thing on IG, I did the stories about it. I was like, I'm not going with this silently. I'm going to bait out the person, and I'm going to show, you know, there's a lot of British people that think that racism doesn't exist. So I was like, I'm just going to put this on my stories so that people can be confronted with actually does exist. And then someone that's not following me, never spoken to in my life, sent me the longest essay on the DMs, and it was all about their feelings. They were white women.
Of course.
They were a doctor in psychology.
Oh God.
They didn't say hello. They didn't say, "Are you okay?" Like, that must be really hard. They didn't say any of that. They just went into their feelings. I'm so angry about this happening, and blah 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 blah. And I feel the pain of black people too.
No, you don't.
Blah, 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 blah. And it was just like, I had to just say, "Excuse me, love. Do you realize that you haven't actually asked me if I'm okay,
do you know what I mean?
or hello, or how I am, and you've just come in with your feelings about me without my permission." And it's that thing again of permission. I'm not a box for you to fill. Like, don't just come to me with your experience and your stories. You need to ask, unless I'm your therapist, I'm in a session, obviously bring whatever you want. But outside of my job, I'm a person, I'm an individual. And so don't come to me with all of your stories about race and racism or your identity that you want to explore without me saying, oh yes, we can do that together. Like, Black women and like any marginalized community, before we're a community, we are individuals with a capacity. and our capacity has to go to ourselves first, and then to the people around us. Everybody else needs to ask for permission.
Wow. Wow.
So plug it in a bit there. Got a bit of anger from that situation.
No, honestly,
Yeah.
I loved it. I'm here for it. And energy. Like, honestly, like the amount of white women that have cried in my DMs, cried in my DMs socially, or cried to this DM right here. And I've literally just been like, are you lost? Because I'm not doing it. Unless I'm getting paid. Because I need to get something out of it. Because like, I just don't see the point of educating people if I'm not getting paid.
Yeah.
Because like teachers, like I said in the last episode, teachers get paid. If Rebecca said, if someone makes you tea, they get paid.
Yeah.
Why can't we get paid for educating? Or why can't we get compensated for educating on an issue that we are experts at? You know, I just find it very, I don't know, it's like, I'm upset, but I'm gonna let you know because I'm self-centered. Yes. Like, and it's just like, do better, because so many people have been in the same position as you, where they've been upset, where they've been angry, where they've been shocked that it's happened, whatever. You're not the only person to acknowledge this. So have that self-awareness, have that common sense to just check yourself in relation to the wider context, you know?
Yeah. And it reminds me of like, sorry, I feel like I know there's questions that you want to ask. So
oh no, don't you? The thing is, right, I'm enjoying this so much. Like, I wish like you sort of knew me more before this podcast, because you'd understand right now I'm fangirling.
And I guess I was gonna say, it reminds me of like this post that I saw. I mean, there's so many posts going out there right now, but there was a post about like microaggressions. Was it microaggressions? Stereotypes.
Okay.
In the media and in films, and particularly like of Black women being like the best friends. Like in every like film, it's like Gabrielle Union and then 10 Things I Hate About You. She's like the best friend, like the supportive friend. Like this is that stereotype that is in all these films, and so people think that that's who we have to be in real life. Like if you have a Black girlfriend, they're the friend that you can come with all your troubles, but they don't tell you their troubles because they don't need to do that.
Yeah.
But no, that's not reality. That's not how things actually. That's in the film. Reality is not like that.
Like, I'll definitely talk about this more in my episode of surrounding respectability politics, but it honestly embarrasses me how many times I've been the black best friend to so many white people and to so many white groups. It actually cringes me the fuck out. Like, I am not here to advise you. I'm not here to entertain you. I am not your, like, it was conditioned. Like, I'm sorry, it just cringes me out because they'll watch these movies, these rom-coms, and they're like, oh, I know a Black person, so I'm not racist. Like, this is diverse enough. And then when a Black person doesn't cater to the life or doesn't perform the manners and the characteristics that they are so idealized in the transmitter's head, it's like this confirmation of, wait, what? Like, obviously, it's like this negative appraisal, because it's like, wait, you're not doing what you're meant to do. You're not doing it. Like, it's just like, what do you expect? You really expect, it's like they think, this Black person, jump now.
Yeah. But it's actually, I'm not a character, I'm an individual.
I'm an individual with so much creativity, so much source, and I do not need to cater to your comfort, to your privilege, and to your identity just because you want to have someone who ticks the boxes of your racially diverse group. No, not today. Like, it's something that I know so fucking well. I just know it so well. So even when you're talking now, it doesn't even feel like we're doing a podcast. This feels like therapy. It feels like therapy. It feels like you're literally just saying things off my mind, and it's crazy. So in decoding the messes, so yesterday I actually shared a post on Instagram
just being like, oh, we're having a podcast, so let's look for some questions for the audience or for the public to get involved in. And we've got 3 questions we've got a few questions, but I thought I'd pick up 3 because I know that we both love to talk. So the first question in relation to microaggressions is, oh, it's not coming up. So, oh, sorry, it just went backwards. Aha, there it is. Now my phone's working. Amazing. So, first question, do you have any advice for coping with microaggressions at the workplace?
Okay. It's hard when that question, Get Out and the sunken place. That's literally the image that comes to my mind when I think about questions. Just like the lack of control, the lack of like
uncertainty.
You have to pull you out almost. Yeah, and it's really hard because you find yourself questioning: Did that really happen, or am I just imagining it? Am I being too sensitive? It's like literally feeling gaslighted, and I wonder if it's possible to find an ally, someone who can witness it with you and that you can do a reality check with. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you know that it happens in team meetings, meeting with that friend afterwards and just saying, I noticed this, did you notice that? Or was that just me? So almost like center checking but it has to be someone that is actually going to be an ally and not someone
that you trust.
Yeah. Ideally, someone that is of color as well, but
100%.
That might be a village that isn't possible.
Yeah.
But having someone that you can have that conversation with, so you're feeling less isolated in it and less on your own in the questioning.
Mm.
And I think from there, it really depends on the
microaggression
and the microaggression, and I would personally write it down.
Mm-hmm.
Like write things down. I'd write the thing. I'd write the date and the time and who it was, just for my own sanity and just so I have a log of it. So I don't talk myself out of, oh no, it's fine. Like actually, this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened, and then I would potentially think about how safe do I feel going to HR. And that will be dependent on the person, that'd be dependent on the workplace. It's a really hard one. Like, I'm just thinking about previous workplaces and how I would do it. And I think it's also about kind of knowing your policies, knowing where you stand, building a support team if you can.
No, for sure. You gave so much, honestly, thank you, because I think microaggressions, it's this whole thing of idea of like picking and choosing your battles. And I think for me personally, within institutional settings, I need to document it. I need to document everything. Like if I'm not going to HR on the first incident, I'm going on the second, because I have every right to work in a safe and healthy environment as all of my peers. And because I might be experiencing discrimination by those peers, it needs to be documented, because it's wrong, number one, but also you don't know how much it is happening, because yes, you might be getting a microaggression by this bad person, right? No, by this person, whatever. But they could also be giving to microaggressions to other people. And if you realize that if this person, I think, let's say if I was just getting a microaggression, obviously it's mine and it's individual and it hurts. But if the person who's transmitting it is giving microaggressions to different people, you can understand that they're more a bully than they are just picking. They're not just singling out. They might be singling you out because of your microaggression that you have, but they are also a bully. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that actually, now I do have an example of when that has happened, where I've had to deal with a microaggression, and actually the microaggression wasn't necessarily directed at me, but it was directed at the client group that we were working with. And so I felt, how do I say what I say? Yeah, like the client group being young Black people, let's just say.
Yeah.
A comment was made, which made me feel away, because it was almost saying like, we can't help them.
Yeah.
We can't help young people, which is wrong. The fact is that we need to change so that we can help Black people. It's not the Black young people's problem, it's our problem. We need to change ourselves. But that person made a comment as if like the problem was the young Black people. And I was the only Black person in the room. And I felt a certain way. It triggered me, because it felt like, well, if I was a young Black person, when I needed help, if someone said that to me, how would I then feel? And I'm in this work to work with all communities, especially young Black people. And so I took that away. I took my feelings, not took my feelings away, I took a moment with my feelings, felt it, got quite upset. And I was just like, I'm not doing this on my own. And so I spoke with my line manager, who was really supportive, to be fair. She was really, really supportive. Spoke to the line manager. She was able to hear me and acknowledge it and be like, do you know what, Tasha, I'm really sorry that I didn't pick that up in the meeting.
Yeah.
And what do you want me to do? How would you like me to make sure that we do better? And so we had that conversation and the action plan. And so the next time that it happened, I witnessed her step in and challenge that person. So I didn't have to fight for it. She fought it for me, if that makes sense.
No,
and it's about finding those people who, you know, that if you allow yourself to be vulnerable to them, that they will fight your corner. And I knew that I could do that with her. So it's finding those people, and it's really hard if there's not anyone that is like that, that you feel like you can, but it might also be about, I don't know, there might be someone that might surprise you.
Yeah, exactly. Time. Like, no, thank you. That was such a great answer. So, actually, I realized the second question is sort of related to the first question. It was, do you directly call out microaggressions or avoid that person in the future? I feel like it depends on the microaggression in itself. So like with me personally, if, like I said, if I get microaggressions in institutional settings, I'm going to come with a different kind of vim than if I was getting microaggressions in my personal day-to-day. I think the difference between that is like, okay, so let's say if I'm getting microaggressions on the bus, or if I'm getting microaggressions like as I'm walking down a road, compared to if I'm getting microaggression at work, if I'm getting microaggression in school, even if I'm getting microaggression in a restaurant, like that experience is institutionalized, you know, like that experience is that experience is reinforced by society, you know, and like that has, it's weird because it's like, I don't want you, obviously use discernment, you know, you best use discernment, because I could be like, don't do this, but then also that might really hurt you, you know? So like, that's I would always say that first. But with microaggressions, they're not just, I mean, you can find them in people, but you can also find them in environment. So I wouldn't say avoid, because I mean, even if you avoided it, you're just going to be approached by it by a different one, you know? I think if you get microaggressions from that person, if you feel safe, if it's safe to, and tell them, let them know that it disrupted you. If they take accountability, you can understand that you guys are going forward. But if they choose to dismiss and you feel like you're being gaslighted, then I would personally remove my space. I just remove myself from the person, just because they're not worthy of your time. But this is all relative. Like, we could talk about microaggressions, saying, oh, you're so pretty for a dark-skinned girl, but then you could also talk about microaggressions in the sense of thinking a Black woman is unintelligent, and then that influencing if you're hiring if you're picking them for a job, you know? So it's hard because microaggressions are fluid, dynamic, but extremely insidious. It's very
you need to have a level of discernment, and you need to have some form of understanding which heightens your sense of self, you know, within it all.
Yeah. And I guess it's about kind of doing a bit of an assessment of the capacity that you have or that you're willing to give.
Yeah.
Like you said, not everyone deserves your time like that. Most people don't deserve your time like that. So it's kind of about saying, okay, this is going to require me putting out some labor to do this, to even voice or to even educate that that's not okay. It's going to take a bit of energy out of me. So how much do I want to give of that? And if you don't feel that you have that energy, then I guess take a pause from that person as much as you can, or like I said, finding someone that can do some of that work for you or with you. And yeah, it's quite hard because there's some microaggressions that you experience once from someone or from an environment. So for example, when you were saying about jobs and stuff, I've had it before where I've gone to like psychotherapy events or counselling events, and people have thought that I'm a youth worker, or they thought that I'm a social worker, or that I'm a trainee, or that I'm a client. They never think, oh, you're a therapist. So they always ask, oh, why? So what do you do?
Yeah, how did you get here?
It's a psychotherapy event, so I guess I'm a psychotherapist then. But there's a lot, and not to say those other jobs are not respectable. It's just saying that there's a disbelief that I'm at that stage where I'm a therapist.
Yeah.
And I will meet those people once and never again. But I have that choice of saying, I can either say, actually, I am a psychotherapist. I can actually kind of, I guess, find a way to
affirm
challenge that. Yeah, so that they can go away and not do it to somebody else, or I can be like, actually, I'm not even going to give them my attention because I'm here to learn. I ain't here to educate.
Exactly.
And then there's people that you work with, or you know, like friends. Like you can get microaggressions from close friends,
and they hurt so deep.
And yeah, it's deep and it's hard, and it's even harder work. Because it might be that you've experienced it for so long, but you've got to a point where it's like, actually, no, this has to stop now. And if that friend is not willing to change or to look at themselves, then you've got another dilemma of, are we still friends then? Can I still catch friends?
If my mind goes to that doubt, I've left you. Like, I know that is very blunt and I know that is very harsh, but it's like I've been in this experience multiple times. I've been in this experience. You know who I am. You know the way that I talk. You know how I'm so forward with my feelings. So if I'm coming to you and you choose to dismiss it, you're choosing your individuality, and you're not even your individuality, because that has more range. You're choosing your sensitivity more so than this conversation, because you could have treated it as a conversation which was constructive and adaptive, with you could learn from, but you saw it as, oh, we're talking about race, and as soon as my brain goes, and I'm talking about like friendship, not like obviously everyone, but like let's say I've known people for years, like I've known some of my oldest friends since I was 4, you know, and like going throughout life, being a black woman, it's like, oh, we're friends. Oh, wait, no, you're not. You see me as just black. Oh, we're friends. Oh, you just see me as your black friend, you know? So because I've been in those experiences, whether it was primary school, middle school, boarding school, university, whatever, because I've experienced it so much, I don't need to give myself the time. Like, I know better. Just because you don't know right now, it's not even, I don't even know if it's your fault. I don't know, because some people know more so than you, but you just haven't learned yet. So just don't be around me whilst you're learning, or whilst you're in the uncomfortable stage of racism, because it's always but the thing is, it's always going to be uncomfortable though. It's always going to be uncomfortable. Like, I was made to feel uncomfortable just because of having a black body in a white space, and you're uncomfortable because your feelings are a twist, because you've read something that made you feel like discomfort. It's just a bit, I just think it's a bit insensitive when it comes to that. But again, everybody has different feelings, everybody has different responses. Like, I know, because of my sense of self right now and how much I respect transparency, and I respect my own sense of clarity so much, I can't waste time gaslighting myself,
teaching people, helping people reach that next level of their education. Whether they do that on their own, whether they do that by listening to my podcast, fabulous. But I can't be the one who teaches them, because that's just me going on a rabbit hole of all my racial memories, you know?
Yeah. And race is not the responsibility of people of colour. Everybody has a racial identity. Whether you're white, whether you're Jewish, whether you're whatever, you have a racial identity. So some of that work is about doing introspective work. It's about taking it away and reflecting. And so I can't be there for you for that process. You need to go away and do that on your own. You need to work out what that is. And I think when it comes to friends, it's about saying, you know, when you said that or when you did that, that wasn't okay. And the reason why it wasn't okay was this. Well, how are you going to respond to that? And if their response is defensive, if there is gaslighting, if it is invalidating, that's when it's like, well, you can't understand me, you can't see me, you can't be there for me then.
Well, it's just a confirmation.
As it would be any other boundary.
Yeah, it's a confirmation that they aren't your friend. You're their friend, but they're not your friend.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully when people provided with that clarity, with that perspective, then they'll be like, oh, okay. You know? But I'm just so happy with this. We're doing so well.
I think we might together.
Oh, literally, like, so the last question I had is, what age did you realise it was microaggressions and not just you feeling uncomfortable?
So for me, I think it's back to that memories at the beginning. I was probably like 20, 21, 22.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the first time I was really confronted with it, but I know that I felt it before. So, for example, I went to school in Essex, and primary and secondary school, and so I was very much confronted with the thing of like, there wasn't that many Black children in my year group, but they were seen in a specific way. They were seen as naughty or cheeky, or the ones that get in trouble, the ones that get excluded. And then I know my mum's expectations of me, which was, you know, you have to basically be this successful person and get A's and da-da-da. So I was stuck with this kind of conflict of, what do? Do I be friends with the Black kids like I want to be? Or do I fulfill my mum's expectations? And it's this thing of like seeing what other people see of a group or a community or a person, and knowing that it's not quite right and it's not quite true, and it's not possible for all these people to be this projection that everyone's putting onto them. So I was very much aware of that, and I was also aware of kind of things like being called an Oreo, being called a Bounty, being called, there's another one, coconut. Like these, I used to literally get so upset because it's this thing of like, but I'm being taught by my society around me to be well-spoken, to be successful, to be really smart, because that's what people need of me and want of me. But then when I do that, I'm then being shunned and shamed and criticised. So how do I be then? Who am I?
Honestly, like, it's literally like the ethos to this podcast. Like, I just wanted to be. I just wanted to be. I wanted to exist. Like, we're all multifaceted. We all want to be seen in our entirety. However, we don't have that opportunity.
Yeah. And
as soon as people, I guess, really acknowledge that, then hopefully we can make change.
Yeah.
God, no, I'm really happy. So now we're a part of the show of Tarot Talks, which is a segment where I give a tarot reading to my guest, and me and Tasha are just talking about well, what have you been thinking, or what has your mind pondered on, what you wanted to ask Spirit today?
I guess I was thinking about the topic.
Yeah.
And like, how do we, and how do the next generation navigate through, how should we navigate through kind of microaggressions and the society that we live in? Does that make sense?
Amazing. Yeah, no, that does make sense. So, Spirit, higher power, universe, and me and Tasha are going to ask for Clarence and not Clarence, sorry, for guidance and clarity on an issue of how we go beyond. How does the next generation go beyond the current circumstances that we're met with? Amazing. Let's shuffle some cards. Okay. So I'm going to take the first card of the deck.
Ooh.
Interesting. We've got the Ace of Cups.
Okay.
So could you just repeat your question again, please?
So how do we and the next generation navigate through the society which has so many microaggressions?
So, in response to your question, you've been awarded a cup that is pouring of water, pouring of love, pouring of abundance. The Ace of Cups, when we look at this card, it's the beginning of something, right? It's the start, it's initiation. But with cups, it's more related to emotional level, with your heart level. So when we see the Ace of Cups, we're sort of rewarded. I don't know if it's rewarded, if that's the right word, but we are approached with a new perspective on matters of the heart. So this could be self-love. This could be creativity. This could be a new relationship, whether that's platonic or romantic. It suggests when you get this card, there is emotional fulfillment is on your path, right? But because it's at number one, we're just starting again, you know? There's like, can you see this card or no?
Yeah.
Okay, so you see basically there's a hand and it like comes out and it's like a hand sort of comes from from the air, I guess. It's sort of like a gush of love and it is approached with sorry, I'm just gonna look at the card and try and like get it into relation to the question. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna get another card for clarity. Please, can I have another card for clarity, Spirit? Just so that I can get my words right together. Okay. Oh, now I don't know if this reading is for you or reading for me because I've just got a card that I always get. Oh, amazing. Okay, so I'm just going to put these down. I'm going to get my little notepad as well so I can get my feelings down. Where's the Ace of Cups? Ace of Cups, Ace of Cups, Ace of Cups. Where are you? Sorry, I'm just trying to find it on this. Aha, there you are. Okay, cool. So, the Ace of Cups. The waters are beneath, upon which the water lilies. The hand issues from the cloud, holding in its palm the cup from the four streams are pouring. A dove bearing in its beak cross-marked host descends to a place the wafer of the cup. The dew of the water is falling on all sides, and it is an imitation of what may lie behind the lesser. So divinatory meanings is true heart joy, contentment, abode, nourishment, abundance, fertility, holy table, and felicity. So the fact that you've got this card in relation to how do the next generation sort of counteract microaggressions with this, counteract microaggression suggests that it's that love needs to take our space. And that might sound a bit odd because if we're experiencing microaggressions, how can I use my own self-love or my love around me to dismiss or lessen the effect of said microaggression, you know? But the next card that we got afterwards is the Emperor. And the Emperor, like, this is like, this card has a lot of meaning to me because I'm also an Aries. This is the like Aries card, and it's a major life theme. So the Emperor is royal, they're regal, they're assertive, they're ambitious, they know themselves. It's very masculine, independent energy. And I think the fact that you've got these two cards together suggests that this is an overarching theme in your life. Like, how am I going to present as an emperor today? You know, and in relation to the Ace of Cups, which is the minor arcana, which means that it's a daily facet into what I can do in my day-to-day life, it is complementary to the Emperor, because it's like, with self-love, with showing gratitude, with showing reminding myself of incidences of joy, it changes that to the optimum. It changes that to my my comfort, my sort of baseline. And with that motivation coming from a place of love, I think that's going to sort of lessen the impact of microaggressions, because we can find assurance and comfort within self and not externally. I think when you've got a card like the Ace of Cups, it's reminding you to do things which fill your own cup. It reminds you to, or not even do things, start things with the intention of filling your own cup, because we cannot help ourselves. No, we can't help others unless we help ourselves. And the Ace of Cups is a reminder of the overpouring love that every individual has. They have the capacity of this. It's infinite. Do you know what I mean? It's literally pouring, like, pouring out of the container, just providing there's so much love to give. With cups, you see a lot of water in this card, you know, and water is a great it's so great being compared to our emotions, because water is fluid. It needs to be expressed. It will take the volume, it will take capacity of whatever it counteracts with. So if we acknowledge that we have a vast amount of emotions, we have a vast pool of emotions, and we need to cater to them in an accepting and also responsible way, through like creativity, instead of like, I don't know, like toxic behaviors. Like, you know, those incidences where people you may know, it might have been yourself, you can't find self-love in yourself, so you find it in other environments, whether that's partying, whether that's drinking, do you know what I mean? There's so many different experiences that one might argue are toxic to refilling your cup with love. So the fact that you've got the Emperor and the Ace of Cups is a reminder that without the initiation, without the love being sort of intentional in the forefront, I think, like being I keep on going back and forth with my words. I'm like, cool, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say. I'm so intrigued by this card. Have you got any opinions or like of this card? Like, what do you see?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, like the cup, and that the way to kind of through it is through your own self-love and your own opinion of yourself and your own joy for yourself and your experiences, and how I think of microaggressions, they can feel really, well, they are negative and they can feel really difficult and heavy, but there's something of like, if I know what I've got, what I own, the joy that I have, if I know that I am a multifaceted I can't say the word, multifaceted person, and I have so many different dimensions, they don't have the privilege or the
Right.
what's the word I'm thinking of? Like, they don't deserve to see that. If they can only see one side of me that they want to see, they don't deserve to see all that I am, all that I can be. And so that's my joy, and that's mine. That belongs to me and whoever I decide to choose it with. But that's kind of what I take it from. There's something about agency, claiming some agency back, especially in the emperor as well.
You know what? I think I love how you said agency, because basically the first card, it's funny because I keep on saying I'm going to do one card for these readings and I end up doing like 3. But like the first card that I saw in all of this was the Knight of Swords. But because the card flew out, I thought I should put it back and then redo it again. But now the card has literally just appeared. And the Knight of Swords suggests someone like a driving force, you know. With swords, it's all to do with your mental realm and how you're going to move accordingly and move strategically, and not let your thoughts consume you, but you're gonna don't let your thoughts master you, but you're going to master your thoughts. However, with the Knight of Swords, it's this hastiness, it's this like fast pace, it's this sort of sometimes they don't think before they act, you know. The fact that the Knight of Swords was just like chilling here whilst I was doing my reading, and then seeing the Emperor, seeing the Ace of Cups, it's like the difference between, let's say, the Knight of Swords and the Emperor is the fact that the Emperor is able to have his heart acknowledge matters of the heart, but then plan with the head, be strategic with the head. But the thing is, with the Knight of Swords, that is like complete hastiness. It's like going super fast, you know. It's like being very domineering. It's being very assertive and being rather critical of yourself or others. So the fact that to be fair, I think the fact that we got the Ace of Cups first shows this introduction of self-love, shows this idea that you need to find joy within self, within others, within what's around you, to like gain stronger sense of your identity, gain stronger sense of self. So then when you're in those situations of microaggressions, you could use your Emperor capability, your Emperor mindset to navigate those situations. Because even now, we had an episode about microaggressions, and yes, that's beautiful, and it just shows you how the world has changed. 2 Black women on a Zoom call, like talking about race so publicly and so freely. Like, yes, that is great, but that doesn't mean that microaggressions are going to stop tomorrow. So it's acknowledging that, not acknowledging, it's, you know what, it's cultivating that love for yourself, right? It's strengthening that love for yourself, or revisiting it, or resparking it. And sorry, I'm literally, you know when something's on the tip of your tongue and then you're like, wait, whoa. It's like, if I am aware that I fill my cup with love all the time, consistently, like I'm doing things to, you know, cater, make this cup look pretty, add more water, you know, nothing can shake me, you know, because if I'm so comfortable with the internal, if I know that my water is overflowing, that I've got this infinite pool of love for self and love for others, everything out external to me is not my business, you know. It's like you know, I'm sure like within therapy sessions, like you've come across that whole thing of, oh, you should only put pride into what you control. And it's like, okay, so I can control what I eat, I can control what who I talk to, I can control what I read, etc. Those are all ways of showing love to self, you know. And if all the things I control, all of the things I can control are great and up to my standard and up to not standard, but if they satisfy me in a way that gives me contentment, pure joy, like I mean happiness, abundance, everything after that is less, because my sense of self, my sense of love, my view of self and emotions is so much, it's like on a different scale, like you can't even measure that. And the Emperor is sort of like confirmation of it, because the Emperor is a life energy. We all need to be an emperor of our own lives, of our own journeys. So, but that, because it's a life energy, and it's to do with ambition, it's to do with drive, it's something that we're figuring out. So I think in response to your question, love for self first and foremost, do things which heighten, enlarge your capacity of love for self, others. I think as soon as you see the fact that the cup is overflowing and we bring new experiences for it to overflow, it expands and it expands and expands. So we need to recognize that we have an infinite pool of love, but regardless of what we've experienced, it just will enlarge that cup, whether it's good or bad, you know? Because like you said, microaggressions are negative. Do you know what I mean? Like I could happily live without them, but that doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah, that's so powerful, and it's making me think about as well about the mosquito thing.
Yeah.
And how in reality, when we have a mosquito bite, a mosquito is sucking blood away from us, and we have like a bump or whatever it's called, and maybe we'll put something on it, or we'll like look after it and nurture it. And I wonder if that's also what's kind of what you're kind of saying, is that if we have that self nurture, that thing that will kind of hydrate us, that will take care of us, that will bring us nourishment, then we'll be okay. Like we can heal, we can move through that, we can move through despite that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I love the fact that you use the word hydrate, because that's so fitting to this card, you know. Oh wow, I really like that reading. It was a bit different, because like when I first saw Ace of Cups, I was like, but how is this related to this? But obviously it's like, this is why I love doing these readings, these general like intuitive readings. It's like what relates to it will relate to it, and it really makes you think and really makes you self-reflect and question and challenge what's being put in front of you. Oh,
and you said the third card that came up, the Knight of
Swords.
Just before that came up, I had a question, but I didn't ask it. And the question was, but what if someone doesn't have a cup that's overfilling? And then that came up, so that's quite bad. That's
mate,
crazy.
this card came up first. Literally, it came up first and it fell. And I was like, I don't know if that's my energy trying to put in the card, because I know that I'm out here moving reckless sometimes. I'm like, like microaggressions, like literally. Like, the amount of people that I've schooled, if anything, I am Knight of Swords energy. But the thing is, with Knight of Swords, it can be unpredictable, and it can be if you don't harness the fire within, sorry, I'm trying to hold the card right. If you don't harness the fire of the Knight of Swords, like not corrective, I don't want it, because everyone's different. Everyone's correct is different. Do you know what I mean? But like, if you don't harness the power or the fire of the Knight of Swords constructively, it's just fire. You know, and like, yeah, he has armor and he's protected, but also he's on a white horse, you know, that's purity, it symbolizes like new starts and like beginning, you know. And if you've got a knight with all this armor, maybe the armor's metaphorical, because it's a mind it's like the swords is all to do with your mind, so it's a mental realm, you know. So if I've got so much armor for my mind, then that's not a fair comparison to what I am for self, you know. There's obviously it's relatable, because it's like when I'm by myself at home at night, or
who I go to, like who I am when I go to sleep. I shouldn't have armor, and I should be, my goal is to get comfortable with that person the most. Like that is my baseline. That's where my happiness I want to come from, you know? But there are situations where the night is necessary, and it is it's productive to be the knight. So I think it's that idea of having that level of discernment again, because if you're the Knight of Swords for every experience that you encounter with, you're gonna burn out, you're gonna become mentally drained, you're gonna come exhausted, and that's not fair for you. That's no one should have to do that, you know? But it's weird because I like it, because it's like we're going back and forth, because it's like we want to analyze what. Okay, so we get microaggressions, right? Are we going to choose to dismiss it, or are we going to confront it? And I think this card, you know, oh, you know what? I understand this layout now. Do you know what?
Coming together.
So this is the aim that we want to be, right?
Yeah.
And this is what happens, I think, for Ace of Cups, is when we decide to dismiss our microaggressions. But then this is what we need to be aware of when we decide to confront our microaggressions, because it's a mental battle, you know? Like, I think everyone's different, so your level, everyone's different, but just be aware of the level of discernment, because as soon as you know about discernment for self within that sword realm in relation to microaggressions, you'll be able to pick and choose your battles, and you'll understand what armor's needed for when, you know?
Wow.
I love it, because the thing is, I feel like with every reading that I've done, like it's just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So like, oh,
yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I love it. It's great. Like, it just feels like so well-rounded, so powerful.
Oh,
yeah.
No, honestly, I love tarot. Like, one of my dreams is to like maybe use it as a like therapeutic, like psychoeducation tool, just because like now, like look what I've done for you. Like, I've just given you different perspectives, and that's literally just from cards. So let's say if if I was a therapist and I could do that with someone, then they could literally just screenshot these cards, Google them, and be like, oh, that's what that one meant. Oh, this is how it looks like, you know? So I'm really, really happy with that reading. Yay.
Thank you for the first reading.
Mate, honestly, I love it. Like, I find it so much fun, and I'm really happy that we did it. So I guess that takes us to our last segment. It feels like we just started talking, but we've been talking for ages. Do you know what I mean? Stage. Oh, but so our last segment is called the direct message, and the direct message is a little take home for listeners. What do you want to leave them with?
Ooh, there's something about, like, I guess I keep coming to that image of like microaggressions as scars, or as fights, and that it's hard because we don't know when they're going to come. We don't know when we're going to get hurt. We don't know when it's going to hit us. It might happen in the moment, and then we feel it 2 days later. It hits us 2 days later. The pain hits us 2 days later. And I guess it's about taking care of yourself, and that it's about that nurture. It's about that nourishment. It's about finding ways to look after yourself, finding ways to look for support, finding ways to have allies, people that can have your back, so you're not having to fight on your own. You don't have to do things on your own, even though sometimes it feels like that way.
Mm-hmm.
There hopefully should always be someone that you can get onto your side, but it is about taking that risk and kind of hoping that they are going to get you, that they are going to see you, they are going to validate you, because everybody else wasn't able to. I think that's my takeaway message of, like, nurture and care and nourishment.
No, honestly, I love that. Like, oh my God, I'm so happy. Like, honestly, like, you don't understand, like, this episode has been so releasing for me, whether that's because I did my dissertation or because you've literally spoken. It's like you went into my mind and you just spoke things that I've experienced. And like, that is so affirming. Like, I think, you know what, that's going to be my take-home message. I think with microaggressions, with racial-based trauma, there is room to gaslight yourself and gaslight your experience because you want something better, or you fear what had happened, so you want to be like, oh no, it's not that bad. And please don't gaslight yourselves. You're too powerful. Like, I'm taken back just from having an episode talking to a Black woman who's a therapist on microaggressions, you know, and that's with me, with my whole confidence of having a whole bloody podcast. That's with me, with my whole confidence of doing a dissertation on microaggressions, you know. Like, not a lot of people have that opportunity, and not a lot of people are awarded that strength or recognize that strength within themselves. So my take-home message is, if things like this happen, don't gaslight yourself. Show yourself kindness, show yourself nurture, because it's dismissive, it's hurtful, but it also doesn't need to be the end. Because I think when I've done it before, where I've get microaggressions and it's just the straw that broke the camel's back, and I am completely broken by it. But if it wasn't for me showing kindness for myself, showing patience with myself, I wouldn't be here today doing this. So don't gaslight yourself, guys. Tasha, you've been amazing.
Oh, so
from here to here, like all day. I'm gonna be so happy. But please, could you let the DM Talk listeners like where to find you? Could you tell your socials and everything?
So you can find me on IG, Instagram at realtalk.therapist. Yeah, you can find me there with lots of colourful posts and stuff around self-love, therapy, self-care, and what it's like to be Black in Britain. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, I'm taken back. Honestly, I feel like I'm a more fan of the girl now than I was at the start of this. Well, I've had, honestly, such a pleasure for this episode. Microaggressions are super important to me, innit? Like, oh my God, I'm so gassed. I'm so smiling. But, thank you so much for listening. Honestly, everyone, like, I'm so happy that DM Talks is getting more recognition, and it really I really appreciate it. So please like, please share, please subscribe, tell everyone about it. Let's hopefully change the world. My name is Sarah DM. You can find my podcast at DM.Talks on Instagram. I'm also DM.Snaps on my personal account, but I mean, that's pretty boring. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope to hear you guys from you soon. See you guys later. Bye.